Hello and welcome back to our summer series, digging through slides from around 100 years ago to find out more about the universe. This week we're looking into one of the slides in our collection that we know the least about and trying to figure out where this is. Out of almost 50 slides, this is the only one with a description written in German, which immediately caught our attention. It was also an object I didn't immediately recognise, so I thought it'd be worthwhile to do a bit of research, including asking my colleagues what they could figure out about it. My background is one of theoretical astrophysics, so identifying interstellar objects from an image is not actually my strong point. Therefore, I had to look closely at the slide to see what information was there. Obviously, visually, the quality is a bit fuzzy, but we can make out a bright sphere within a ring of sorts, another object slightly left of it, and the description. Rebel in den Jagdhunden nach J. Herschel S. 456 unten. Apologies if my pronunciation is a bit rusty on that one. The last time I formally studied German was too long ago. Whilst we obviously have access to things like online dictionaries, there's no real substitute for talking to a native speaker. As such, I brought the slide to Mrs. Crow, our head of German, for a closer look. Translated, the main part of the text reads as Rebel in the Hunting Dogs. The Hunting Dogs is another name for the constellation Canes Venatici. If you've not heard of it before, don't worry. It's not the biggest or the most important constellation. It's tucked between Ursa Major and Boötes and was named in the 17th century by Johannes Hevelius before being formally adopted as an official constellation. So naturally, I decided to take a closer look at Canes Venatici to see if I could identify any objects which looked like the image in the slide. Canes Venatici is a circumpolar constellation for me. This means that it doesn't set below the horizon at any point, but unfortunately it's quite low in the sky at night time currently. So that meant I had to find a way to look at the objects in it in a different way. This meant making use of stellarium. Other ways of looking at constellations are available online, and basically I just zoomed in loads and tracked around. Needless to say, this was not a good technique, and I found nothing that matched the image. At that point, I looked at the rest of the title to see if it made any sense. S in German could be an abbreviation for Süd, meaning south, Seite, meaning page, or a couple of other options which made less sense. 456 is clearly a number, and unten means under. I honed in on the 456 here, as in the 1880s, Jean-Louis-Émile Dreyeux put together the New General Catalogue, or NGC for short, which contained thousands of deep space objects. It compiled together the work of siblings, William and Caroline Herschel, along with William's son, a certain John Herschel, among others. NGC 456 is a combination of an open cluster and a nebula seen on the right-hand side of this image. On the plus side for my quest to find the location of the object from the slide, it is south of Canes Venatici, but possibly slightly too far south as it's in the constellation Tucana. This is a constellation in the southern hemisphere, far separate from Canes Venatici. Not only that, but I had a look around NGC 456, especially under it, and found nothing that seemed to match the image from the slides. So at this point, it seemed like it was a good idea to actually talk to someone who had done observational astronomy for a career, and in fact used it in their PhD work. Dr. Steele, my head of department, took one look at the image on the slide and said very clearly, "That looks like a ring galaxy." If you're wondering what a ring galaxy is, then I'll be honest, so was I at that point. They are incredibly rare, with about 0.1% of known galaxies taking this form. It turns out that they can be formed in a number of ways, including a barred spiral galaxy spinning too fast so that it undergoes a process called spiral spin-out, or collisions between two galaxies with one effectively punching a hole in the middle of the other. The most famous ring galaxy is one called Hoag's object. In fact, Dr. Steele pointed out that the object in the image looked so much like Hoag's object that it could be it. But there's a couple of problems with this. First, Hoag's object was discovered in 1950 by Arthur Hoag. This slide appears to be older than this, judging by the dates on the other slides in the collection and the old Gothic style lettering used on its description. Secondly, Hoag's object is neither in Canes Venatici nor anywhere near NGC 456, so whilst they do appear similar, it didn't quite match for me. If you asked me at the end of last term, then the answer would be no. I was actually going to leave this ambiguous, purely because I had no idea what the object was, or where it could be. But whilst cobbling together the script the other night, I went back on Stellarium to have one last look, and I might have a contender. One of the settings on Stellarium that you can use is to turn on constellation art. Now, when I was initially looking for the rebel in the hunting dogs, I thought that Canes Venatici was a lot smaller than it actually was, and spent nearly all my time looking at the head end of things, or a bit below, thanks to the unten part of the description. What I really needed to do, though, was to look a bit further back. When I did, I came across NGC 5157. NGC 5157, for those of us who haven't come across it before, is not a ring, but a spiral galaxy, though with the amount of dust in the image, could look like a ring galaxy, especially for an old photograph with high contrast. It also has a companion just off to the side, in the same position as the slide. And for my money, that means it could well be the rebel in the hunting dogs. Now, I could be wrong on this, and I'm not entirely satisfied that I've got the right object, and there's a couple of questions that I still feel are unanswered. One is, what makes this a rebel? And two, what about the south 456 under thing? So what do you think? Do you agree with my answer, or is there another rebel in the hunting dogs that I've missed? Let me know in the comments, and feel free to have a roam around in the night sky in search for NGC 5157, Hoag's object, or anything else that grabs your attention. Next week, we'll be looking at exposure time on images, why it makes a difference, and what astronomers have to consider alongside it when taking photos of the night sky. Until next time though, please continue to support this channel by liking this video, joining the now over 200 subscribers if you haven't already, possibly watching the video here that YouTube thinks will keep you entertained, and until next time, please continue to watch this space. Thank you.